Hey guys, this is Eckhart Slatter. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars The Clone Wars video. Today we'll be talking about episode 2 of The Clone Wars, but because we'll be talking about one specific issue, first I'll give my general impressions. I really liked this episode. Probably not as much as episode 1 because having the Bad Batch being introduced was really interesting, but this episode had its highlights, including, and there will be spoilers from this point on, the reintroduction of Echo, the scene with Padme, Anakin, and later Obi-Wan especially, and just the general interaction between Anakin and Captain Rex, the latter who I think has really shined in this new season. And it's actually this call between Anakin and Padme that will be the center of today's video. So the first arc for Season 7 of The Clone Wars is set on the planet Anaxes. I'll talk more about Anaxes later, but for now all you need to know basically is that it's a major Republic shipyard, and the season starts off with the CIS launching an attack, and Anakin, Obi-Wan, the 501st, and others helping to counter-attack and protect the vital planet. From Anaxes, they learn of a separatist algorithm, and episode 2 is about them traveling to the planet of Skako Minor to try to find this algorithm, which is in reality the remnants of ARC Trooper Echo. So the confusion comes from the beginning of Anakin's conversation with Padme. Padme basically says that you're late, and Anakin responds with, "We didn't anticipate the Outer Rim sieges lasting so long." I immediately knew that this would be an issue when I saw the episode because Anaxes is quite famously a planet in the core, like Coruscant, Alsakan, and others. Anaxes is a really interesting planet in my opinion, especially from an out-of-universe perspective. It was first created for the Coruscant and the Core Worlds reference book by Jason Fry, but would be really detailed in his later reference book, probably the best in Star Wars Legends, The Essential Guide to Warfare. Those sources describe Anaxes as essentially one of the most militarized planets, not only in the galactic core, but also in the galaxy as a whole. During the latter days of the Republic and the Clone Wars, it was home to probably the galaxy's greatest military institution, the Republic Navy War College, which later of course transitioned, in Legends at least, to an Imperial and later New Republic naval facility. The Anaxes War College was well known for its system of starship classification, basically breaking down ships based on their size and power. For example, with a battlecruiser being roughly 2 to 5 kilometers in length, but with exceptions made for ships that are either very powerful for their size or not powerful. I've talked about this in prior videos, so I'm sure many of you are already familiar with this system. If not, let me know and I can probably do a video on it later. Anyway, the issue is that this planet, which has long been held up as an important part of the core, is at least sort of lumped into the Outer Rim when Anakin says he didn't anticipate the Outer Rim sieges going on for so long, given that they're currently fighting on the planet Anaxes. And as always, when there's a little bit of a lore discrepancy, there was a lot of controversy about this, especially on Reddit. Is Anaxes being in the core actually important to the planet? Well, yes, I think so. It's sort of held up as a cornerstone of Republic naval tradition, so it would definitely be in the core. It's supposed to be a relatively old planet, one of the founders of the Republic, so not being in the core breaks a lot of the Legends backstory. The real question is though, is that actually what happened in the episode? And in my opinion, it's not. I explained this in multiple Reddit posts, but you can maintain Anaxes being in the core without contradicting the conversation between Anakin and Padme. All Anakin says is that he hasn't been able to contact Padme because the Outer Rim sieges have been going on for so long. The Outer Rim sieges is basically the Republic pushing the CIS out into the fringes of space. However, episode 1 of season 7 very clearly states that it was the Separatists under the command of Admiral Trench which initiated the attack on Anaxes. So, the way I see it is that the Republic is pushing the CIS back throughout the Outer Rim, and the Separatists launch a counterattack at a major shipyard, and this even makes sense from a tactical point of view. As Padme intelligently points out, a siege is inherently a long process. A great way to break the war effort would be to destroy a shipyard and break supply lines. So the way I see it, Anaxes can still easily be in the core. The Republic is in a prolonged campaign in the Outer Rim, but then Anakin, Obi-Wan, and others are dispatched back to Anaxes to try to defend the planet. From that perspective, it's still connected to the Outer Rim sieges. It still follows that Anakin wouldn't have been able to contact Padme because of the other battles. He's essentially been temporarily reassigned. And that's exactly what I thought the scene was intending to imply. However, Matt Martin, who is a part of the Lucasfilm story group, kind of shot that idea. A user on Twitter asked Matt, "Aren't Anaxes and Skako Minor in the core? Just curious if that's the case. I think it was mentioned in Afra." Matt Martin said, "Skako may be still, Anaxes is not. It's a whole thing." Ugh. I really don't like this answer because it's unnecessary and it contradicts not only Legends information, but also how the new canon has classified Anaxes, which has specifically placed Anaxes in the Azure system of the core worlds, just like Legends. So yeah, the Clone Wars has messed up that bit of Anaxes, and in my opinion it kind of lessens the sort of history around the planet, at least if I superimpose the Legends background information. However, it wasn't really the Clone Wars that did this, because every bit of information about Anaxes can be reconciled with that conversation. Rather, it was a sort of weird decision from the story group. Now, Matt's comments aren't canon in and of themselves, but the story group doesn't usually confirm or tweet out information unless they're pretty sure about it. Matt especially will usually just not answer something if there's no canon answer. So you can pretty much consider Anaxes to no longer be a core world. I find that disappointing, but ultimately it doesn't really matter, doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the episode, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Let me know what you think of Anaxes as being a part of the Outer Rim. Does it make sense for a planet being defended to technically be a part of the Outer Rim sieges? All of that please and more down in the comments. Today's hashtag AskCat question comes from Harry Plays Minecraft 898 Johnston, who asks, "How do you make those battle breakdowns and which program do you use?" For those who don't know, my battle breakdowns are basically quasi-animated battles that I explain and, well, break down. I'm not very good with video editing. I have no video editing background, at least before I started my YouTube channel. I wanted to make my first videos on Microsoft Movie Maker, but it was no longer being released. Anyway, the way I do it is I make a document in Photoshop with each ship or cluster of ship being their own layers, then I import that into Adobe Premiere, and then I basically animate each ship. So if a ship needs to go forward, I just do it by changing its position on the timeline, and I use things like easing out or specific movements whenever I need to. It's not very advanced. I'm sure there's a much better way to do so, but that's how I make them. Some of the ships I make myself, like Star Destroyers, I'll sometimes just make out of triangles, but the majority actually have some sort of official top-down shot that I can use, or that a fan has made and I can get permission for. I also have the outline of many ships from my size comparison videos. But that's all I have for today. If you have a question you'd like me to answer down below about the channel, Star Wars, Halo, or anything else, leave it. But until next time guys, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.